I don't remember when I was a teenager that I was like putting in requests. Can I have this? Can that happen? It really was more, this world does not make sense to me. What I trusted turns out not to be forever. It was just that assurance that life hasn't gone off the rails. And, and sometimes unburdening myself when as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, things I was thinking and doing didn't make sense or just seemed weird. It was, it was a way to, even beyond words, just to feel at home in the world.
When life throws a challenge at you, one thing is certain. To find a resolution for every issue, every problem, for everybody, there's more than one way. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of More Than One Way. We're excited today to have Jake Morrill back with us. He's been a guest with us before, and last time Jake was with us, Thom was not with us. And so we've had some conversations with the three of us kind of in between, and we wanted to bring you in on those conversations. And Jake has a wealth of experience from a lot of different areas, and we felt like it'd be great to have another conversation together.
So some of what we talked about, what really kind of hit us all was the story when you were 13 and you went and looked for someone to help you with prayer, like what it was. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then kind of taking it and really almost expanding on how we understand prayer. And that whole concept and that whole world, it kind of fits in with some of what we've done just with this podcast to try to take these somewhat what everybody thinks they know what it is. Mm-hmm. And to some degree, everybody does know what it is, but might not know the fullness of what it is, and how. And so, from 13 to whatever, and how that developed. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. So when I was 13, I lived right off Paper Mill exit, and my parents got divorced. And to my surprise, amidst all that heartbreak and grief, I began to pray. And I remember, I'm mentioning Paper Mill because I have a very specific memory. I think it's a Casey's now, but it used to be Pilot forever on North Shore there. And I had a little lawn mowing business. And I remember walking over to that Pilot station to fill up the gas can and feeling like I wasn't alone in the world. Huh. And that was one of these early experiences of having what Martin Luther King used to call a cosmic companion. And I began to, without any playbook or instruction or really understanding of what I was doing, I began a regular conversation and companionship with this cosmic companion. And it was... that's where I think my prayer life began. From that moment where it seemed like things had fallen apart, to just a sense of peace.
And how did that fit in with your religious upbringing? How did that fit in with being a part of what church it was? Were you a part of a church?
Yeah. I was very active in the Unitarian Universalist Church here in Knoxville, and I loved it and still love it. And people say that the religion has vertical and horizontal dimensions. Horizontal's about community and ethics and all of that, and justice, and vertical's about the eternal. And growing up, I felt like we were good on the horizontal. When it came to justice and community, we had that covered. And I wasn't sure what to do with this newfound vertical dimension, this prayer, this sense of being, of knowing God. That was different. People didn't talk about that too much.
Yeah. So what'd you do?
Well, there's a book for 3-year-olds that's about some birds. It's like this little bird saying, "Are you my mother? Are you my mother?" Walking around.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like that through my early teen years. So, Southern Baptists, "Are you my mother?" Methodists, "Are you my mother?" And I always felt like the Unitarians were my people, but I didn't know where to put this prayer thing with them. And when I would, I'd spend Saturday night with friends and wake up, they'd haul me off to whatever church their family went to.
Right.
And that never was exactly right for me, or that, So it was pretty much a private thing. I guess I would talk about it with friends throughout high school. And it really was, early 20s, I went to Quaker meeting pretty regularly. Again, it was like me, the 21-year-old, and then a lot of 65-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then finally, toward the end of my 20s, I ended up getting baptized. So that's sort of the long arc.
Tell me more about the Quaker meeting. Kind of what was that like?
Yeah. For me, in where I was in my faith journey at that point, it was perfect. In a funny way, it was where I could do this sort of private God that or this private understanding of God, but in community.
Okay.
So you would go into a meeting.
Yeah.
And what would it look like? Would there be chairs set up?
Yeah. So this was in Iowa City, where I was most active. I lived in Iowa City for 2 years, and it was a house in a neighborhood. It had these beautiful wooden pews in the very plain living room, and I'd go there and sit, and we'd have meeting, which would be essentially an hour of sitting in silence until and unless God spoke through someone, usually one of the older people, and they would rise and sort of share gently a few words about what they understood God to be speaking through them. And I went, there's Quakers call them popcorn meetings, where as soon as one person sits down, somebody else pops up, and I definitely went to some of those elsewhere, but in Iowa City, it was a very spiritually mature community. I mean, it really was. It was going to be the 82-year-old woman, and it was going to be this other person, and I appreciated that. I remember one morning there, it was a house again in a neighborhood, and some kid was practicing violin through the whole meeting for worship, and I just felt like this is God. God is speaking to me through terrible violin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because I'm interested in how people's prayer life evolves or prayer life, because it is such a central tenet of really all spiritual traditions. They might call it different things, and so my experience is so almost like opposite.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Mainly meaning like, I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and so for the Episcopal Church, the worship service itself was and is to this day really kind of the central piece of what it is to be in the Episcopal Church. Yeah. It's not that there wasn't social justice or other horizontal, as you refer to it, type stuff that the community did. It's that was the centerpiece. And so prayer really all through my childhood into my teen years, up until really I went away to college, would have been much more corporate, much more led by people, priest types, lay readers, that kind of thing, and having a book as the tool to help you with the prayer.
Yeah.
So for you to go right into this, whatever a cosmic conversation is, would be a very, very different way for me anyway to experience it. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I grew up in the Methodist tradition, and so I guess for me growing up, prayer was really located places.
Yeah.
Like it was around the table, it was at the bedside, and it was in church. But really outside of those, growing up, especially, those were kind of the places I associated with prayer, you know, like a blessing or praying for people that were sick or family members or others that we wanted God to watch over, you know. But we didn't have the prayer book like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So prayer in the service was much more kind of extemporaneous, conversational, you know, somebody standing up and just kind of speaking from their heart, you know, for the people.
Did either of you chafe, especially when you were teenagers, did you chafe against it? This is something that those grown-ups are doing, or did you always receive it and this makes sense? This is
Well, I got bored.
You got bored.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, so I just got really, really bored with this. Like, oh my God, here's this one again. You know, that's for me anyway. It was the danger of being in a liturgical church that kind of has a particular pattern. You know, which on the one hand can be very helpful.
Yes.
But as a teenager, I was like, yeah. You know, and that's where that's what I'm saying. I think that's where it really started to hit me that maybe there's more to prayer than just the corporate. Like you brought in the bedside, and sure, we said blessings before meals and all that. But I think that kind of snarky yeah teenager was my way of saying, is this all there is?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that that led me into some other directions.
Huh.
I think for me, a lot of the prayers we had were kind of memorized prayers, like we were taught as kids. It was kind of the same words.
Yeah.
And so my biggest fear was ever being called on to pray and having to say something other than that, you know, with the idea that I'd have to kind of come up or share something. I was super shy and didn't want to speak. And I was just like, man, I could never like pray in front of people. So it was kind of this thing that I was curious about, but at the same time, I kind of dodged at time, you know, just tried to make sure I wouldn't be called on, you know.
So
which was kind of interesting.
But prayer still kind of had that kind of corporate.
Yes.
You're saying something out loud, in a sense, kind of asking God for something. Was that the similar thing to the cosmic conversation? The Quaker thing sounds very different from that.
I don't know. I don't remember that when I was a teenager, sort of when I was a feral prayer, I guess, that I was like putting in requests. Can I have this? Can that happen?
Yeah.
It really was more, this world does not make sense to me. What I trusted turns out not to be forever. And so it was just that assurance of, you know, is that somebody, Peter Berger talks about the sacred canopy, that sort of that, it was just that assurance that I am, that life hasn't gone off the rails. And it was sort of checking in. And, you know, and sometimes unburdening myself in prayer. I mean, there was a lot of that when as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, things I was thinking and doing didn't make sense or just seemed weird. It was, you know, it was a way to, even beyond words, just to feel at home in the world.
So there was a deep sense of like a feeling associated with it and connected to it.
Yeah. It was very experiential. It was not, you know, I wonder if somebody had handed me the Book of Common Prayer then, or handed me, you know, something, I wonder what I would have done with that. You know, there's part of me that's, I envy you all having grown up in these things that you said, yeah. You know, I think for me, like a guidebook could have been useful.
Right.
No, well, and it is. That's exactly the way I found it. You know, after I moved, once again, beyond. It wasn't, the yeah was just, you know, I was just kind of a jerky teenager in a way, you know. So the moving beyond is basically when I went to seminary, and I went to seminary young. I was 23, and it's where I kind of found the daily prayer rhythm within the Episcopal Book of Common Prayer, morning and evening prayer. That kind of became the bookends for my day. Right. Yeah. And to have the guides, they're extremely helpful for that time of life. To you know, to have words that, in a sense, weren't mine, but then eventually became mine. Yeah. Meaning it really, really touched a deep part of my soul or to take scripture and to read it in a slow, kind of more deliberate, meditative way, much less studying type and much more devotional type.
Yeah.
You know, so all that got wrapped up in, and I did morning and evening prayer just about every day for about 5 years. You know, that once, like I said, it became my you know, when I first got out of seminary, you know, I went to a church, and every morning when I got there, I would shut the door and start morning prayer. And one day my boss knocked on the door, and he's like, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm saying morning prayer. Now, I had heard from some of my friends that what their bosses said is, well, do that on your own time. And now, thankfully, he didn't. He said, that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And when you're done,
nice.
we'll meet.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really, really got support in that. And so the guide, your thing about the guide, it was really, really helpful. Extremely helpful.
How do you think over those 5 years, how did that affect you or change you, that practice?
Well, I mean, I think how it affected me was, number one, it started giving me some level of discipline and comfort. You know, it became a man, okay, I've got this time where I'm not having to go do anything. And I really, really, while I might not have said it then, when I look back on it, it really, really helped with, really part of the day doesn't have to, all of the day doesn't have to be productive.
Yeah.
You can have this time of where you're just, just connecting. And in my way, it was using the tradition that I was a part of to help me with that connection. And so the Psalms become a really big piece of that. The way you're talking about, the world doesn't make sense. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people who are writing the Psalms were like, they might not have said it exactly that way, but they were, to me, they were getting at that.
Yeah.
And so it started to just kind of shape me, meaning that somehow or another prayer was going to be more than just Sunday or by the bedside or at a table.
Yeah.
That it was going to become more a part of me.
I remember this is 25 years ago. I can't remember if I'd started divinity school yet or not, but certainly my ears were perked up. And I was at a conference in Cleveland, it was on lunch break, and I was walking in downtown Cleveland, and I passed by this hotel, and between two parked cars on the street, there was a bellhop from this fancy hotel who had laid out a prayer mat. He was Muslim,
wow. Yeah.
and he was prostrate. And I remember being so moved. I think especially because he was dressed in a hotel uniform, and I thought, here is somebody who's got a job, who's in the world. He's not a monk, and he is making a choice for his life, in his life, about how to occupy this moment and how to live, how to be in the world but not of the world as he understands it. And I remember being just so impressed by that. And that was even before social media began to command large swaths of my attention, that that somebody could choose differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's built into once again to the tradition.
Yeah.
And what would you imagine, what they do that 5 times a day?
Yeah.
Right. So in your mind, maybe it's not 5 times a day, but when you guys are praying, whatever way you were praying, what did it do to you? What would it do for you?
I think, and thinking about you're kind of talking about the morning and evening prayer.
Yeah.
I think for me, there was definitely some grounding in it, just in kind of the swirl of everything going on, taking that time to just be quiet or talk or just be in that posture of prayer, I guess, was just kind of a centering, just kind of a recalibration almost, just when things felt out of control or confusing or, it's just a way to kind of almost like just take a deep breath in a way, just kind of a refresh.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And did you have any kind of help with that, or was that more you in the space on your own, kind of the way Jake's
I think there were people around me in the different communities I was a part of that I felt like were prayerful from my own kind of perspective, that they just had a calmness about them, or a gentleness just in the way they went through the day, and knowing, and getting to know those people or observing them, seeing that prayer was a part of that, and wanting some of that too, and thinking, well, I'll try maybe if I try that, that'll rub off on me, or that kind of thing. So just kind of observationally seeing people that seemed to be more smoothly navigating through the day than I was, and trying to try what they were trying.
Give it a shot
as a way.
It makes me think of there's this woman named Phyllis Tickle. I don't know. Phyllis Tickle. She's written different stuff within the Christian world, and I think she was in publishing or something in that realm. And every day at noon, she would put a sign on her door and say, "Praying, come back in 20 minutes." So in a sense, kind of doing what you're saying, hey, this is going to be a part of my life. This is going to be a part of my day, and making that known. And I know sometimes, here we are talking about prayer, but sometimes I know it just feels kind of dorky. Like, that this, so this is part of your day, and you're admitting it.
Yeah.
Right? You're making your so-called intentions known. And I just find, I think that it did something for her. And I would imagine she would have been one of those people you would have been looking at going, wow, I think I'll get a sign.
What's that all about?
Yeah, what's that all about? What about you, Jake? What about you and that, the idea of what prayer, how it shaped you or helped you to see yourself or whatever?
I mean, this may be kind of obvious, but I feel like I've been more faithful, and I have taken risks with a trust that comes to me through the practice of prayer, and thy will be done, that kind of posture that I don't see as reckless, but others have. I mean, I think some decisions I've made in my life, people are like, what are you doing? I think that I've been able to have an unusual course in life because I'm a privileged white man who's, with shock absorbers. But I also think that with forks in the road, that's the capacity to trust uncertainty, ambiguity, to trust just venturing out, I think is a capacity that I trace back to prayer.
Okay. If it's not putting you on the spot, can you give an example of a jumping out there kind of thing?
Well, I've had so many. I dropped out of college to play music, and I remember I was riding on a train through Connecticut to New York City, just praying, what should I do? And it's not, I don't think I've ever heard voices. It's not like a line. It's a peace and a clarity. And certainly in parenting, as recently as this last week, trying to trust and not control, trying to be open and not closed, trying to be present and not checked out. I mean, it's these qualities of presence and being in me that I link back to prayer.
Right. Thank you. And so, like, when you're praying, what's the sense of what's going on for you, but any of you guys? I mean, and here's what I mean by that. So like for me, one of the big things of prayer is connection. It feels like I'm connecting to presence in some way. So and by that, what I mean is something beyond my own ego. something beyond my own, in a sense, will. Right? So trying to open myself up to that which is greater than me. And so prayer at its heart for me is that connection. And yes, then it shapes other things. You know, the scripture gets into it with, you know, the idea of the fruits of the Spirit. And those, you know, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. And your thing just made me think about that kind of stuff.
We talked a little bit when you and I talked before that I've been trying to think about the relationship between discomfort and prayer. I think when prayer has been most meaningful is when I have pain or discomfort or a question, and I've reached the limits of my own self-sufficiency or my own willfulness. And so I would like to think that my prayer is equal parts gratitude and praise. I don't know if that's true, but I do. So I think what I experience happening in prayer is like, well, I have no idea. and so it is connection to the presence, but it is also surrender. It requires me to empty myself to the degree I am able, that I might be filled to exactly that amount with wisdom, with alignment, attunement. I mean, it all sort of starts to sound kooky when I find words for it, but yeah, that's what I experience, and it happens.
No, I don't think it sounds kooky. I like that word kooky though. It sounds really cool. So thank you for throwing that out. And what about you, Whitney?
I think lately I've been trying to think of prayer not so much as like a noun or a thing, but more of a space or a place that I visit. That's something that's been helpful for me lately. Is just something that I feel like there's a invitation into this space or this place, and trying to intentionally go there and spend time there, just in a way that helps me make sense of everything else. But that's just for me lately. That's kind of, it's felt more like a space.
Gotcha.
Is that space or place separate from your activities of a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Like, could you be in that place even as we're talking on this podcast, or is that place a few steps to the left or adjacent?
That's a great question. I would think it could be. Yeah, I don't know that I always find it there, but it doesn't feel like it would be contradictory or being stretched, in two different things. I mean, I think that would be really nice if it was that way.
Yeah.
To find that.
To find just almost like the way I'm hearing you in terms of space is like a condition.
Yeah.
Like a sense of this is where I am, and that can be anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It makes me think that also makes me think of like the thing athletes talk about oftentimes, like being in the zone.
Yeah.
Like where you're just in it, whatever you are. And see, I think as we keep talking about prayer, it just expands it. Meaning what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So when I was little, it was now I lay me down to sleep, and then
really fits into that first and second half of life conversation.
It can fit into that whole world,
bit.
that whole way of understanding. And so this piece of prayer is, I think this is part of what Paul was talking about when he wrote about, if it was him, wrote about pray unceasingly. Mm-hmm. So it's a state of being that you just kind of carry with you wherever you might be. I think you were talking about that once when we had that prior conversation. There was a group of people you were with, and you had that. Well, I don't want to tell your story,
I don't remember what you're mentioning though.
So that the idea that struck me, because the idea was like you used to be the Energizer Bunny.
Oh,
but then you came back and you were more wanting to kind of hold space, and you've had that experience with the group. Yeah.
So I'd been a minister for 15 or 16 years at the church. I went on with my family, a 4.5-month sabbatical to Mexico, where I spent a lot of time just walking under the blue sky, and came back and just felt this peace from all of the intensity of meeting after email, after all of the life of parish ministry. And I came back with this self-understanding of myself as a vehicle of healing presence at my best on a good day.
Yeah.
And so, but reintegrating with this congregation, I mean, I think what I said is, in a way, it wasn't fair to them, because I'd spent 15, 16 years grooming them to expect that I would be the Energizer Bunny with the latest idea. Let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. And I come back, and I must have seemed like I'd had a lobotomy or something. Like I'm in this meetings, these meetings, kind of breathing gently, and and they're like, yes, what do we do? What do we, I was. It was different, and I think I had a hard time sustaining that in relationship to them. I tried to explain, I tried to make it clear how I had been changed, and I think it was confusing and maybe a little frustrating, because the whole congregation, the whole ministry had been set up with the idea that I was going to have more energy than anybody and 45 ideas a day.
Yeah.
And so what was I doing sitting there with my eyes half closed?
Yeah. Well, yeah, once again, to me, that, taking a sabbatical or having a span of time where there isn't as much responsibility, or there isn't the kind of the day-to-day demands of living, can be for me, real intense time of prayer expansion. So to me, walking under the blue skies is a prayer.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be like a movement into life with an awareness and an openness to what you're in. Right? And then you try to bring that back, and it just seems kooky. Right?
It seemed pretty kooky.
Right? So you bring that back. And I think that's one of the things about as we keep circling down with prayer, what it can do to us. It really can shift how we enter into the world, how we become. Yeah. And sometimes people will go, man, like Whitney's saying with some people, that's really appealing. And then sometimes it can be like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dangerous stuff, prayer.
Yeah, I mean, I think people I've really admired and gone to just have a lot of silence in them. And maybe because I'm a big talker, so I envy it, or it's just different. But I think that is the product of either prayer or some kind of discipline, as well as probably temperament. But and I just think that's so useful, especially, in a world that's going 120 miles an hour with flashing lights, for somebody to have the long view, for somebody to be holding on to the eternal, that's been useful to me in my life.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, too, just for anybody, a bit of that might help life. A bit of that for anybody. A bit of that holding on to the eternal. A bit of, okay, I'm going to spend a great deal of my time in this 24/7 culture. Maybe somewhere along the lines I can start to see this thing, prayer, as a avenue out for a little while. Not out of life, but out of that pace.
Yeah, out of being hounded and being fearful and ashamed and all of the things that I think the world tries to fuel our behavior with. And when I work as a coach And I think one thing I often do is if somebody's bringing me something that's just weighing on them and they're talking really fast, and I will get them laughing about it, or I'll laugh just because we mortals and the things we take so seriously, the deadline or the boss or the project or whatever. And probably their bosses would be mad at me to have them but I do think there is something about, I think that I am serving for them in their anxiety what others have offered me, which is just a broader view, just some perspective. And I don't know, I mean, I guess I'll just ask either of you, in your ministries, have you seen where people have been in the grips of that kind of fear or shame or urgency, and then they take up a prayer practice and you've seen them shift?
Well, here's the thing, to be honest, Jake, and here's the thing, is one of the reasons I love this conversation and that I wanted to talk about prayer, it was to try to give it once again, a broader definition.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not saying these words on this time of week.
Yeah. So for us to in our own lives talk a bit about how this verb, how this action has impacted us, and to see that's an anybody can do that. That's an offering for anybody to take hold. Unfortunately, I haven't really met anybody who's really taken me up on that.
Yeah.
And that's not a put down on people. I think a lot of times people have their view of prayer, and a lot of times it's very similar to some of the first things we were talking about.
Yeah.
Kind of a quick, hey, bless that person kind of thing, which is a lovely thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not what you're talking about. And so it's almost like that kind of prayer would be like going to the gym and doing a push-up.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, I'm done. And yes, that's exercise. Yes, you did. But if you want more, and this is, my hope for this podcast is just to try to sprinkle a little bit more out there. And I'm not saying that people don't have that. I'm saying sometimes I've never been privy to what you just asked. I can't speak for Whitney, and that was a long answer. But
I don't know if I have a specific example for that.
Do you?
I guess I think I've worked with people who have softened and opened, I guess. And I don't know if I can attribute that to prayer or how I understand that. And I don't even know what part I played in that. Maybe I'm just bearing witness to it, but
that's lovely.
I have seen it. I guess I'm just thinking as we're talking here, I think that there are conventional forms and occasions of prayer. Beginning of a meeting or a table or whatever, and I think that's good. I don't say it snidely that it's conventional. It's expected. It's lovely. It's a way for people to do something that the culture invites them into. And I think the kind of prayer we're talking about, the kind that changes you, I don't know. I mean, I do believe this idea that every change process is also a grief process. And so if I'm really going to pursue a discipline of prayer that changes me and allow myself to be changed, I've got to be willing to let go of my identity, my certainty, the approval that others have of me. I mean, I've got to be willing to get kooky. And I think that's what happens to people who really go deep in their spiritual practices. They are a little weird.
Yeah. Well, that's my experience of myself.
Yeah.
And feeling weird.
Yeah.
Just as you've gone deeper and had those experiences.
Yes.
Yep.
Have you had moments where you stopped or have been like, no, more, deeper?
Well, there's been breathers along the way, but mostly it's more, deeper.
Not self-doubt or self-consciousness or...
Well, there's self-consciousness around other people. So there'll be times when it'll be like, sometimes it would just come across as like annoyance. Like, it's like, golly, there's got to be more than prayer before meeting. Like you're saying, there's nothing wrong with prayer before meeting. It's a lovely thing. But I'm always like, but, what else would we do with this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I've at times felt self-conscious and weird. And I don't like the feeling, and I don't really want to. I feel like I'm swimming upstream in a culture in a sense at times.
Yeah.
And so my big thing within my prayer life would be to try not to feel weird or kooky, but at the same time to not see myself as superior in some way because I'm in this deeper prayer world.
Yeah.
So it's been that tension, and there's just times when I just feel completely out of step.
I'm thinking, I'll try to make this short, but I'm just thinking about spiritual friendship. And a few years ago, I went down the rabbit hole in researching this photographer from Lexington, Kentucky in the 1950s. His name was Ralph Eugene Meatyard. And he was an optometrist. He would close down his optometry practice at noon every day all through the 1950s, Lexington, Kentucky, to do Zen Buddhist meditation.
Yeah.
He was an eccentric.
Yeah.
And he began taking photographs, and his photographs were meant to show the unity of all life. So he's got these broken down barns in eastern Kentucky, all this stuff. So, and he was a Little League coach, he was PTA chair, he was all the conventional things, but he also had this part of him. Well, in the early 60s, he got to be friends with Thomas Merton, who was there at Gethsemane, and then he also got to be friends with Wendell Berry.
Oh, wow.
And the three of them, in the mid-60s, Ralph Eugene Meatyard, Wendell Berry, and Thomas Merton, each of them, a Buddhist, Catholic, and I don't know what Wendell Berry is, his own nature thing, but I would imagine that the three of them fostered courage in sustaining their eccentric devotion to the truth. Yeah. And I guess, have you found people who help you stay there in the deep?
Yeah, the guy Chris Chase, who was here last week or however long ago that was, but he lives in California now, so that's. And then I have a spiritual director that I work with, and those two probably are the main ones.
Yeah.
And then reading, I do a lot of reading. Authors and things kind of help me not just feel so like, golly, why is everybody talking about this and I'm talking about this?
Oh, I did a little webinar with this student I'm supervising, and he's been talking about, it's on spiritual friendship. And so last week we got into the question of whether books could be friends. And he said, oh, yes, I have a lot of books that are friends.
Yeah, they're my friends. No doubt.
Well, I'm going to tell him there's somebody else.
Yeah,
I was like, book can't be a friend.
That's
but
right.
I think
I love that idea.
We can start the cookie club.
I think you two are probably more right, and I'm just not there yet. So.
I was talking with my friend the other day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was so great.
He does everything I want.
And I can close him and put him on the shelf.
What about, do you have people who help you stay out there in devotion?
I think so. And I think maybe not in as defined of a spirituality kind of way or labeled the same way, but people I feel like are on similar journeys of a deeper discovery of themselves.
Yeah.
And then us sharing that together. Not even that we're headed toward the same direction or coming from the same place, but just feeling a kinship in the idea of we're on this journey.
Yeah.
And so I think that just encouraging each other to press on, and just hearing stories from someone having an experience and going, that's out there.
You see, in my experience, once again, that would be prayer as well in some way. Meaning, when I pray, I'm going to get to know myself better. It's going to take me deeper and deeper into my own soul, where I meet different parts of who and what I am. And so I think it's a prayer. Prayer for me is not only connection with something greater; it's a self-discovery.
How intentional is that self-discovery? Are you like saying, well, today I think I'm going to visit this part of myself? And
Well, no. I mean, for me, it would be more like I go into a particular kind of prayer, just usually through silence now, some meditation, and what bubbles up.
Okay.
And so there'll be some traditions, and sometimes I do this, where you let it pass, don't engage it. And then there's sometimes when I engage it.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Kooky.
Well, is it ever disturbing or worrisome or
definitely.
frightening?
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
And so what do you do in response?
What I usually try to do is just breathe through it. Just let it come and breathe with it. And then afterwards I might write something down, write about it. Because both sides of the human condition are within me, right?
Yeah. Boy, I wish more people did that in the world. I think I see the evidence of people not doing that out in the world a lot.
When all I can say is when I don't do that, when I am not in that living from that kind of prayer, then it all goes out. And then so then all my negative I can just see all around me.
Yeah.
And then that guy's just a real pain in the and this woman is the one. They're the problem. And it's not me being willing to engage my own.
Yeah.
Jake, we thank you so much for being with us again and taking time to have this conversation. I think it's great when we can take these things like prayer. It's one of those words that has so many different meanings for different people, and just open it up and talk about what it means to us and kind of what we're discovering. So thank you for being a part of that with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you both for helping invite people into a wider understanding of what this could be for them.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the More Than One Way podcast, brought to you by the Center for Spiritual Practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. We really appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback. You can reach us by emailing hello@morethanonewaypod.com, or you can connect with us on social media using the handle @morethanonewaypod. If you found this episode helpful, we hope that you'll share it with your friends, with your family, with people you work with all the people who you know. Thank you and take care.